Welcome to Conquering Retirement. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Lance Gilman. He is CEO of Northern Alliance Financial, as well as joined by Blake King of Northern Alliance Financial. And to our ladies in the audience, we have a lot of information today that's going to be talking about retirement planning, but a lot of it will be geared towards women and money, if you will. But to the gentlemen at home, you don't want to miss this either, because obviously there's probably a female in your life that could benefit from this information as well. Lance, how are you today?
Wonderful. Always great to be here with you in the studio, Cynthia.
It's so good to be in the studio with you, Lance. Thank you so much. And Blake, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good. Doing very, very well. Lance, I want to start by, obviously, your footprint has actually increased in Maine. Let's talk a little bit about your different locations before we dive into today's show.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Cynthia. We now have about 10 locations throughout the state. So we started with only one when we first began many, many years ago, and that was in the Lewiston-Auburn area. And we added Brewer, and now we have Saco in Mexico.
Wow.
Hollowell, actually, yeah. Blake King is now actually is there in our Hollowell office. And then we also have a number of satellites as well in Mexico and in Brunswick, Bath, and Portland. And so we've got a real solid footprint to cover all areas of Maine, so where somebody would be able to come in for a one-on-one appointment. And that's just so very vitally important. When somebody's talking about their retirement planning, they want to actually physically come in and talk to somebody and sit side by side and have a cup of coffee and kind of let's figure this out. But our footprint has increased dramatically over the years, and now we have the entire state mapped out.
I love that, because it makes it so convenient for someone just to come in no matter where they live in the state. So that's fantastic. I love that. Well, Blake, obviously, when you think about planning for retirement, it can be so arduous for men and for women both. Mm-hmm. So I have to ask you, where do you even begin?
I think the first step is going to begin by looking at a budget, right? That is going to be kind of the baseline. We want to be able to identify what our current expenses are, whether or not there's going to be major expenses decreasing later, nearing retirement. For instance, maybe you've got some cars paid off, your camp is paid off, your home's paid off, whatever it may be. Really just try to identify what is that number that you need to be able to live comfortably and live the life that you want to live in retirement. I think that's the first stepping stone there.
Okay, for both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
So Lance, gearing more towards the female viewers of the audience today, have you had any interesting cases recently involving women in money? Anyone that you've met with recently?
Yes, actually, this is somewhat of a sad case, but it ends well. So and I had an instance where a couple who we've been working with for many years, the husband was coming in frequently for the reviews and the wife was not. And she called probably, I don't know, 6 months or so ago and said that her husband had been diagnosed with early dementia. And she wasn't sure what they had for funds, because she wasn't coming in for the reviews. And we always encourage couples, if they can, sometimes it's not always feasible because one of them's working or taking care of other things, but if they can, to come in together so they can kind of have a handle on what's happening with their portfolio and their plan. And so she told me that news, that he had been diagnosed with early dementia, and she wasn't sure what they had for assets or what they could do. Well, the beauty about it was her husband had set up a plan, a hybrid long-term care annuity plan that actually had coverage for him should he have a long-term care need.
Wow.
She did not know that.
Oh my gosh.
And so what happened was, when she came in, she was literally in tears, Cynthia, because she's been dealing with taking care of him as he's been getting progressively worse and never really been able to leave the house or have respite. Now, because of that long-term hybrid care plan that her husband had purchased many, many years ago, it's going to be able to turn on an income stream for her that he will never be able to outlive, even if the account goes to zero. And it's going to provide her with resources that she can get some help. But not only that, the husband not only signed himself up for a policy, but signed up for her as well.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, that's a really good story about something that recently happened in the office involving women with money, and it ends well because it shows you how planning is so powerful in that process, because you don't know what life is going to deal, what curveballs are going to come at us. We don't know.
You never know.
But in this case, the husband had planned well, so now she had options she didn't even know she had.
That is amazing. And Blake, obviously, when you think about it, I've even had friends that have gone through experiences where they've lost a spouse and they didn't even know where to start as far as financially. The husband took care of everything. So on that same vein, what are some other threats that women may face? I know obviously longevity would be one, because typically we live longer. What about also being a caretaker to others?
Yes. So women wear a whole bunch of different hats throughout their life, and I don't think they get enough recognition. You know, a lot of it is just selfless acts of love, right?
Yes.
And so they really put themselves on the back burner, even though they deserve a lot more recognition and appreciation. So
all of Maine has just fallen in love with you, by the way.
Well, I mean, you know,
I just want to point that out.
Yeah, I'm a mama's boy. She raised me well. But the thing is specifically the risks that can really turn for the better is just the unknown. Really taking the time of finding someone that you trust and can work well with, and really articulate some complex things in an easy to understand manner, because unfortunately the finance industry is just full of acronyms and jargon, and really you can just get lost in the weeds. But if you've established a relationship with someone that you can trust and get along with and really walk you through that path, those, you know, going direct to the selfless acts, you can just really empower someone to really make the right decisions for their future. And it just takes time, you know, especially if you haven't had a hand on it, you know, leading up to a significant tragic event. It just takes time to get a good plan going for you.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that a lot of times people will come into the office. One of their greatest concerns is one of the spouses typically is interested in the portfolio and the planning process, and the other one isn't.
Right.
It's just not. And that could be the male or the female.
It's true.
But that's why we encourage both of them to come in, because at least they're getting some exposure, because typically the male will pass before the female. Not always, but if then what's going to happen is, if they've been coming in, we're going to be one of the top 5 calls that somebody makes in the event of a tragedy.
Absolutely.
And we've had couples actually come on as clients because of that process. Is like we have such a large footprint in Maine, so that they are physically able to come in. If something were to happen to either spouse, they're able to physically come in, and we're going to work through all of their issues with them and pick up the broken pieces and call the life insurance company and call these different companies to help them. In one instance, I had a radio caller actually who'd been listening for a number of years, and it was a female, and her husband had passed, and he had done everything.
Sure.
All these investments, stuff everywhere. And she literally had no idea where to even begin.
Yeah.
So she had courage and to be congratulated. Why? Because she called.
Yes.
And she said, listen, I'm calling because you were talking about a survivor, and my husband just passed, and I need some help. I don't know where to begin. She came in, and I told her, I said, I'm going to help you through this process. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to take us 6 months to a year to figure all this out. And it did. About 6 months to a year for us to sort it out, because there's so many things that we don't even know about that are out there. But she was so grateful. So grateful. There were literally tears in her eyes when she left. Why? Because she knew she was going to be able to get help.
Absolutely. Peace of mind and also empowering her, Lance.
Right.
Both.
Right.
We have to take a very short commercial break. To our viewers at home, there's a number to call on your screen. That number is 877-241-7430. Why are you calling in today? To learn more about your retirement. Do you have a plan for retirement? If not, this is the perfect opportunity for you to take advantage of a complimentary consultation being offered by Lance and his team. Also, on top of that, you're going to get a copy of Lance's book, Conquering Retirement, which was just an amazing read. Lance put a lot of time and heart into this book, and I think you will enjoy it as well. You can get your copy by calling in today. And finally, most importantly, we have a guide for you called Women and Money. So if you're in the viewing audience today and you're a female and you're unsure of where you stand financially, whether you've lost your spouse or perhaps your husband takes care of everything, this is the perfect opportunity for you to gain knowledge. That peace of mind will be priceless when you need it most in your retirement years. If you don't have a pen handy, grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to the landing page for Northern Alliance Financial. That's what I'm trying to say. And you can claim your spot accordingly. We're going to take a very short commercial break here on Conquering Retirement. Don't go anywhere. We're talking about women and money. We have so much more when we return.
Our team at Northern Alliance is very diverse in terms of the services that we offer.
We do take a team-based approach.
We carry multiple licenses so that clients can do everything within the Northern Alliance financial team.
If it has anything to do with retirement, that's what we specialize in.
Budget planning, tax considerations, Social Security strategies, risk management, long-term care, Medicare, health planning, as well as legal and estate planning.
We really are a one-stop shop.
There's Lance, Gilman, Peter Hansen, Jeremy Barnard, myself. We do have a staff that is great.
In Maine, we have multiple locations to cover the vast array of the state.
You know, you can come in and have a conversation in person. And a lot of people are looking for these days. Things after COVID have changed to more Zoom, phone call sort of things. And we'll do those things, but we appreciate and would rather have you come in person and have a conversation face to face like this.
We're pretty approachable, and we're going to listen to you. We're going to try to determine what your needs, your aspirations, those goals are, and then we're going to do everything that we possibly can to help you meet those goals.
It's lighthearted, it's carefree. We laugh like crazy. An atmosphere that I don't think is common in a lot of other practices.
We were talking about how well the team is bonding together, how similarly we all think in that what we do, we want to actually make a difference.
Average everyday people helping average everyday people.
You know, we truly do put the client first.
Our mantra has been, when you take care of people, people take care of you.
Welcome back to Conquering Retirement. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Lance Gilman. He is CEO of Northern Alliance Financial, as well as Blake King of Northern Alliance Financial. And to the women in the audience today, we're talking specifically about your retirement plans. We know that sometimes there are some roadblocks that you may encounter. We're caregivers, we're workers. Sometimes we're just too busy to think about it. This show is about you today. Lance, you care so much about this, in fact, women in retirement. Isn't there a chapter that you've dedicated in your book, Conquering Retirement, to women specifically?
Actually, yes. That chapter 6 actually is for widows and widowers. So we deal with both of that.
Yeah.
And it could happen either way. Sometimes the spouse is the male, right? And that's the survivor, and the female passes. And so what do? I had a case one time where somebody actually saw an advertisement in a local newspaper, and he called the number and he said, my spouse passed. And this happened a few months back, and he said she took care of everything. So it was a reversal than the norm, right?
Yeah.
But she was an accountant, so she was good with numbers.
Yes. Okay.
And my niece, you know, she's an electrical engineer. So there are women out there that are good with numbers, that are good with math, and that like this stuff.
Yes.
And she was phenomenal. His wife was phenomenal.
Yeah.
What she did, she had stuff all over the place. I said, well, how much do you think that you have? And he said, I don't know. He literally said, no. She did everything for him. So he was calling because he was in desperation.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know where to begin. I said, okay, this is what you need to do. I said, get a box together and write Lance on it. and just start putting stuff in there. If you get mail and it looks like it might be something that I need to look at, just dump it in that box. When it starts getting full, call me. So about a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks went by. He called me up. He said, this box that's got your name on it, it's getting pretty full.
Wow. Okay.
I said, all right, well, I'll be over on Thursday. So I showed up on Thursday and I sat down and I started opening all of those statements that he'd been gathering for weeks. And he was feeding me unsweetened iced tea. And after about an hour, hour and a half, I said, do you know what we've just done? He said, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you've just done. I mean, I've just been feeding you iced tea, but I have no idea. I said, we just made you a millionaire.
Oh my gosh.
And he just about fell out of his chair. He had no idea the great position that she had put them in.
That brings tears to my eyes. That is amazing. What a story. That's incredible.
The story's in the book in chapter 6.
Wow.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. Well, Blake, let's talk a little bit about a different venue here, Social Security planning and spousal benefits. How do those impact women overall?
Yeah, so just statistically speaking, right, the husband kind of just really brings in the money as quote unquote the breadwinner, right? And you can have either a working spouse or a stay-at-home mom, right? And so during the husband's working career, he's paying into Social Security. Well, then he reaches full retirement age and underneath Social Security. The spouse can actually take what's known as a spousal benefit. So depending on when he takes Social Security and what her age is, she could receive up to half of his, right? And so heaven forbid something happened to her husband, she would then be able to receive all of his, but then lose hers.
Okay.
Okay. So you've got that in consideration for the spousal benefits as well as widower benefits. But say even the wife's the breadwinner, right? And the husband was a stay-at-home dad or just, worked construction, didn't have a lot of Social Security earnings, whatever it may be. The husband could actually qualify for spousal benefits as well, taking half of his wife's Social Security benefit.
Okay.
So it's really just running the numbers and finding out what makes sense, because it may make sense to file underneath your own because you had working years as a mom, and half of your husband's benefit may not be as much as your benefit would be. So it's just about running the numbers and finding out what makes sense for each person's situation and whether or not there was a partner involved.
And one of the things that we actually do as like a hallmark of a service that we provide for all of our callers that actually come in for an appointment is we will run a Social Security planning report for them.
Wow.
Complimentary.
That's fantastic.
It's a 39-page report which will outline all of these different strategies. When is the most optimal time for them to file? Do they qualify for a spousal benefit? What would that look like, and when would it best work for them?
Okay.
So it's all part of the process that we do in that comprehensive planning process. So we're not just talking about like a budget or your portfolio or taxes, Social Security, long-term care and risk management, Medicare, estate and legal planning. We're talking about all of that.
Yes.
That's what a comprehensive plan is all about, and that's what we do for all of our listeners.
Lance, thank you so much. And Blake, thank you. To our viewers at home, there's once again a number to call on your screen. That number is 877-241-7430. Are you in the viewing audience today and asking yourself, do I have a plan in place for retirement? Am I a woman in the audience today thinking, do I know what my retirement plan looks like if my husband passes away? If these are some questions that you're struggling with, this is the perfect opportunity for you to call in and take advantage of this consultation today. That number again is 877-241-7430. By calling in today, you will also receive the guidebook, Women and Money, an invaluable resource when it comes to planning out your financial future. And best of all, a copy of Conquering Retirement, Lance's new book, which is simply incredible. And there is chapter 6 in here, geared towards you female viewers at home. If you don't have a pen handy, that's okay. Grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Northern Alliance Financial landing page, and you can claim your spot accordingly. You get one shot at retirement. Let's make sure that you're in the right position and you do it right. We'll be right back momentarily.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Conquering Retirement. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I am joined today by Lance Gilman. He is CEO of Northern Alliance Financial, as well as joined by Blake King of Northern Alliance Financial. To our viewers at home, today's show has been about women and money. And if you're in the viewing audience today and you're thinking, you know, no one ever listens to me, I don't feel like I have a voice when it comes to planning my retirement, Lance, Blake, and the team, they're here for you. Don't miss the opportunity to call in because, again, this is your financial future. Gentlemen, we have viewer questions right now, and I am over the top excited because I like to see what people are thinking, what they're wanting to ask both of you. So, Lance, may I guide the first one to you?
Sure.
All right. Our caller's name is Saul. He would like to know, is there a good rule of thumb for how much of my IRA should be invested in safe investments if I'm 60, or is it just personal preference?
So there is a rule, and a rule of thumb is kind of a guideline, Cynthia. So, and it's called the rule of 100. And the way that it works is you take your age and you subtract it from 100, and then it gives you some value. So So Saul, you're 60, you take 60, you subtract it from 100, you get 40. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does that equal? It's 40 is the recommended risk factor. So what that would do is it say 40% of your portfolio should be in the market trying to get some competitive gain, right? And then 60% should be somewhere safer that's not going to have market risk or volatility.
Okay.
And so the rule works like this. As you get older, so your age goes from 60 to 80, now 100 minus 80 is 20. So what happens is we want to dial that risk back over time, Cynthia.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much. And thank you, Saul, for that question. The next question, Blake, is for you, and this is Julia. I didn't really open my investment statements for all of 2022. I'm scared to look. I will be retiring in a few years. What should I do?
Well, thank you, Julia, for that question. I first want to commend you for not looking at your statements. Good for you. I know there was a lot going on, and you know, if you were to look at your statements, you may have reacted emotionally, right? And at that point in time, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get out of the market.
Right.
But retirement is a long, could be a long period, right? So you have opportunity to recover. So number one, good for you. Number two, let's talk about meeting with a professional to make sure whether or not you're taking on the appropriate amount of risk. Lance just mentioned about it earlier. And each situation or each person's situation is completely different. It depends on how much money you need, how much money you actually have, whether or not you want any market exposure, some or all market exposure. I've worked with people throughout my career. They're just like, yep, I understand the market. I like it. I'm going to run with it. And that's what I want my plan built around. Great, let's work with that. Then you have other people on the opposite side of the spectrum, like, oh my gosh, I can't take any risk. You know, I want to put my money underneath my mattress or go bury it out in the backyard. You know, all different.
Where bingo is gambling, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. So I think just trying to identify how much risk you want to take on. The best way that you could do that is just meet with a professional and speak with them directly, speak with us directly, and find out, you know, are you correctly allocated?
Right.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Blake. Lance, this next one, this is Marge. It says, I have been working with Maine State Retirement for 22 years. I'm drawing my late husband's Social Security through survivor benefits. Can I really lose all of that benefit?
So thank you for the question, by the way, Marge, and it is one that is largely misunderstood.
Okay.
And Part of the problem is with the Maine state retirement system is they don't pay into Social Security. For whatever reason, many, many years ago, the Maine state retirement system decided they were not going to pay into Social Security. And so Social Security basically said, well, if you're not paying in, then you're not going to get benefits, or you're going to get reduced benefits.
Oh, wow.
So there's two things that they get hit with. There's something called the WEP, the windfall elimination provision, and the GPO, which is the government pension offset. Those two things. The windfall elimination provision affects someone's personal Social Security benefits. The GPO affects the benefits if a survivor benefit is claimed.
Okay.
So unfortunately, it is true. Depending on the amount of your pension, basically what they're going to do is they're going to take that survivor benefit and they're going to subtract 2/3 of your pension. So let's say your survivor benefit was $2,000 and your pension was $3,000. So when you take 2/3 of the $3,000, that's $2,000. 2,000 minus 2,000 is 0. So in fact, Marge, it is possible that that benefit could be eradicated, eliminated. The Social Security benefit, the survivor Social Security benefit could be gone. It's true. It's unfortunate. However, there's a silver lining here.
Okay.
We need to have a conversation because the Maine State Retirement could offer you a buyout option whereby you could get $100,000 or $120,000 or $150,000 buyout from the Maine State Retirement. We could then invest that to give you more money in your retirement, and you'd still be able to take your survivor benefit. Boom.
Nice. That would be fantastic.
Right.
Well, Lance, less than a minute left of this show this week, but you and Blake have a very special offer to present. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so anybody listening today, this whole show was dedicated to money. So we have a Women and Money brochure that we are going to send to you. That, coupled with the book, Conquering Retirement, and a complimentary professional retirement planning consult with us, is going to get you started on the right direction.
Lance, thank you, and Blake, thank you. To the viewers at home, most specifically, thank you for spending time with us today on Conquering Retirement. We know that you have a lot of questions about how to plan your perfect retirement. Lance and his team have the answers for you. Don't forget to call in 877-241-7430. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed most of all. We'll see you back 1 week from today on Conquering Retirement, and keep those questions coming. We'll see you soon.